All right, everybody. Welcome to the June meeting of the Texas Teams community. As always, thanks to the DIR for partnering with us on this. Mark is not able to be here this month. I think hopefully he's on vacation. But whether he's here or not, we're really grateful to the DIR for partnering with us on this and give us an opportunity to educate all of us here. We do have some really cool things to talk about this month. We always have cool things to talk about. But what we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit more in depth on a couple of the things that we have already talked about. So our friend Alex is back to share a little bit more about learning pathways. We had a customer ask us, they're rolling out Windows 11, and they asked, well, hey, we don't have Windows 11 training content in learning pathways by default. How could we add that content? And so Alex is going to show us not just how to add Windows 11 training content, but also how to add your own custom content. That can be content that someone else is hosting, something on YouTube, something that you're hosting in your SharePoint environment or other web portal. And it can also be not just something that is at a URL or a website, but also could be something like a document, Word documents, PDFs. So lots of ways to add additional content. And then we also have Cyrus. He has come back and we have some new things to share regarding Power BI. We have an adoption kit that literally was released today. I don't have much information, so I'm going to fuddle my way through because I literally just found out about it. And then I'm going to provide y'all with more information and a link to on-demand training as well as live training for Power BI. And so that's has been a challenge since we no longer have our customer success training program is to get training. But we now have a way to get that for you for not just Power BI, but a whole lot of topics around Office 365. And then we'll have some time for open discussion. And so, as always, if you want to be added to the community, please, you can either scan this QR code or you can go to this URL and just type it into your browser and just fill out the form. And I know that there was about 8 people that filled out the form since the last month. And so, in fact, a new friend, I'm not sure if she's here or not, Becky from TextDot. So Becky, if you're here, thanks for joining. And then a whole bunch of our regulars are here. So thanks everybody for joining again this month. So last month we talked a little bit about, last month was Public Servant Week, I think, while we were during the, oh, hey, Becky. And so we talked about Public Servant Week. And I just showed y'all how to use the Praise app to send someone praise right inside of Teams. And I just left the slide in here just because I think it's great. It's a great cultural thing to do to send each other praise. And Praise is an app that's built right into Teams. And it's just it's really fun and it's really flexible. It doesn't go into someone's permanent HR file, but it's just it's just a nice thing to do for each other. And so when you get the follow-up PDF, it will have the URL that has a YouTube video on how to use Praise. If it's not turned on in your environment, then you can visit with your IT folks and see if that's something that they want to enable. It is something that is a kind of an HR thing and a cultural thing, and so y'all may be using something else for providing kudos or feedback or praise. So just always be kind to your IT group if that's not something that they have the ability to turn on right now. Just so y'all know, my monitor is literally turning on and off as I am presenting, which is making it a bit of a challenge, but we're going to muddle through. So if you see me delay, then that's why. Let's see, you can see all of your praise records in Teams. So I use it for oh, nice. I didn't know that, Sadie. Thank you. So you can look and see who you have sent praise to. Awesome, Tim. I'm glad that y'all use it as well. That's super cool. So you use it with the student workers. So that's great. Let me wait for my monitor to turn back on. Here we go. The The next thing is what we were playing with earlier, is just the little high five emoji, and so that is something that that you can use, and it's just fun. And just let's have a little fun to work while we're all working really hard and working in remote fashion and hybrid fashion. And so then also, let me see if there was something else I wanted to highlight before we jump into this next section. Okay, this will be good. So some of you attended the training that Alex and I did together. We called it Learn for Government, and it is all about our Learning Pathways site that is freely available to y'all with your Office 365 subscription. It's a SharePoint site that has access to all of the Office 365 training, not just for Teams, but also for OneDrive and Outlook and Excel and Word, PowerPoint, lots and lots of it out there. And so um, when I send out the meeting notes, you'll have these URLs, and I'll try to pop them into the chat while other people are presenting. And so Learning Pathways is, if you don't have your own learning management system, or even if you do, then it's just a really easy learning environment. And as I said earlier, Alex has come back. He helped us by talking about Viva Connections a few months ago, and he's going to show us how to extend the content available in Learning Pathways. And he and I recorded this session, and I had my avatar on for part of it. Oh, that was back when I had shingles. So I had, my forehead was all swollen up and not looking so great. So I used my avatar during that meeting. So we recorded that, and there's a recording here that's an overview. There's a slide deck that you can get here. And if you're having any problems, then just ping me on Teams. And please don't send me an email. But if you're not able to ping me on Teams, I know some agencies we're not federated with, then send me an email. But make sure you give it a good subject line like, "Hey, pay attention to me," or something like that. I just get a lot of email, and I apologize for anybody that I missed their email. It's a bit overwhelming, including all the other ways people reach out to me. And I'm not making excuses. I just don't want to miss your message. So we're going to have that content in just a little bit, but the additional content. But I want to share with y'all this this thing we call the Power BI Adoption Kit. Like I said, it literally came out today, and the whole goal behind this is to give you the people at your agency the ability to adopt Power BI yourselves. So it has training that's available. It has communication information. Let me pull up this website and show you a little bit about what's available. Give me 1 second here. Let's see. I'll read this off here. So what it has a 1-hour end user training, presentation, and guide on how to present. So if you're wanting to present this yourselves, you have someone that's kind of your Power BI champion, then there's a presentation and a guide on how to present it. So all the material is there for you. We do have on-demand and live training. So what I mean by that is there is a pre-recorded training, and then there are also scheduled trainings with a live presenter. It won't be just for your agency. We have one of our training partners who has we have formed a relationship with to provide these quote live trainings. And you can schedule it. There is a schedule, and so you can have your people attend at a particular time, and there's Q&A session associated with that. But the on-demand training can be just as good, and you can do it whenever you want. And then it also has pre and post emailers and flyers. And so if you have people that are in person, you can put flyers up around. They're made in such a way that you can customize them and put your agency logo, change the colors, whatever you want to do. We literally give them to you. And so I will post a link to be able to go and download this. And it's just a whole thing that you can use to adopt Power BI more through your agency. A lot of you already have the licenses, and agency-wide, some of you have just a few licenses. But if Power BI is something that you are wanting to use more, which is it's fantastic, so definitely suggest it, then this is going to be a way for you to do that, and to for someone to step up and take a leadership role in your agency and help roll it out. So last month, we played the recording because Rachel is unfortunately no longer with Microsoft. She was caught up in our reduction in force, but she has this amazing demonstration. And so I'm going to leave the link to the recording in the slide deck so you can have that in the follow-up email that I send out. So it's a very good overview of Power BI. And in addition to the on-demand and adoption training, I think you're going to have what you need to really get started. And then there's all kind of training that's available online. And then there's also this Power BI Drive a Data Culture, and there's a link to that training here. And so, Cyrus, would you like to go first, or would you like me to have Alex go first? I can leave it up to you guys as to whether we talk about learning pathways first or Power BI futures first.
I don't have preference, Cyrus. It's up to you.
All right. I can. Well, my name's here. Why don't I just take the lead here? So.
Okay, let me stop my share, which is hard when the screen's turned off. Okay.
And I will share my screen. Apologies, I wasn't completely ready. So.
Yeah, and Cyrus, if you want, no, I'm not trying to put you on the. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, buddy.
No problem. Let's jump into slideshow here. So I'm kind of doing a little informal presentation here. This is somewhat new to myself, actually. So we had a internal product that was being worked on for the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. So it was kind of a hush hush. No one was really supposed to talk about it. We even gave it a different code name. So we were talking about this product as something that was going to be the future of our data analytics platform. And in our build event that came out, or that was held 2 weeks ago, we finally announced the name of this product. It's called Fabric. So this will be the new. Hard to call it a product. It's a collection of different tools. So the overlying element here is that Power BI now will be the interface for a lot of other data tool sets that will be incorporated into Power BI natively. As of today, when you use some of these products like in Azure, you kind of have to jump out of the Power BI universe and go start exploring Synapse or Data Factory or notebooks or pipelines. It's not one contiguous place that you can interface with. And Fabric addresses that. So I'll just do this quick presentation and then maybe show and tell a little bit more as we go along here. So first item, what we're hearing from our customers, they want to have not only a citizen developer for Power BI and reports, but we also want to have those skill sets improved across all swim lanes. So we don't want to pigeonhole a Power BI developer on just making visuals. They can do some data exploration too, and some of those tools aren't necessarily at your fingertips. So that is one of the primary goals of this new foundation or collection of products. How do we manage data across an organization? So we have the concept of a lake house now, kind of a OneDrive for data. We want to keep this stuff governed in a single universe. So Office 365 has all of the governance mechanisms built on top of it, and we can even leverage Teams to interface some of these things, as we saw last month with Rachel, showing how Power BI and Teams interfaces. And also taking advantage of the fact that you've already made an investment in a lot of these technologies. Why not just surface them all in an easier to access manner? So again, siloed data is bad. We all know that, but we also want to make sure that we can give our data stewards more tools in their toolbox. So that's what we're coming up with Fabric. Fabric is going to be a collection, not only of Power BI, but also of all these other tool sets that you may or may not be familiar with. So Synapse data warehousing, data science, and pipelines and other types of things, all that sit on top of what we call this lake house. And over time, this terminology will be ingrained in your head, so you'll understand what these terms mean. But we've kind of come up with a new vocabulary, so just be mindful that a lot of these words need to be fleshed out and defined as we go along. But suffice it to say, the lake house is more of just a blob storage or a data lake. We're just giving it a unique name so that we understand the terminology that we're talking about here. The capabilities in Fabric, again, it's going to be lake centric, so we can land all of our data in a single repository and then give permissions to people, kind of like a shared folder on steroids, if you want to think of it that way, and then persist that security across the organization. Single source of truth, I don't really have to pitch that concept. A lot of people are on board with that kind of idea that everyone wants to be able to connect to the same data, and if it's stored in the same place, it's going to be easier for folks to make sure that they have the right data source for making the right decisions.
Cyrus, one thing that I see around that, though, a lot of times is, we have the data source, and then we pull it into Excel spreadsheets, and then someone creates formulas and they create macros, and somewhere along the line they might have missed something or got something wrong, and so then all of a sudden now you're using a different number because it's been calculated and it's a different data source. Then you're building dashboards off that data source, and so I love that concept of being able to really have that single source of the truth and make it actually work and have it secure. When I saw the Fabric announcement, that was something that really rang true with me, because I know what a challenge multiple versions of the truth can be.
Yeah, especially if you're exporting out, all of a sudden the data that you're working with has now been decoupled from the source, and if there was an error or an update that was required, you aren't going to get that necessarily. So connecting to it in a single place, making sure that your Excel is connected to that data lake or one lake or data set is going to be critical for having that everyone have the same calculations and report metrics. Where were we? So we're talking more about just the idea of reducing your footprint and having less is more. We don't want to have everyone having their own version of a file. So secure and succinct and single versions of data is going to be critical to success. Some of the scenarios that we're going to see here is that lake house scenario I talked about earlier. That just gets into some of the tools that are now going to be available within Power BI to do things that you weren't able to do before. We have transforming data outside of Power BI. We're going to have pipelines that we can pull things in. We can create a data warehouse all within a single interface. Do some data science type of things. If you're writing Python or machine learning type of algorithms, you'll be able to do that now in the product and real-time analytics. And I expect there to be a lot more features that come along the way. We want to make sure we let our public sector folks know that this technology will be coming to our government cloud at some point in the future. So I've written a couple articles on this topic. I'll throw a few things into chat. I just gave you all my password to my demo environment. It's recorded too, isn't it? So I have to change that password.
Sorry about that. And I don't have the skills to go in and eliminate a few frames.
It's all right. It's just my demo environment here. But I want you to be able to have your own demo environments as well. Don't use my username and password to do it. And instructions to do so are going to be found we have a blog here, Power BI blog, and I wrote an article on Fabric and how folks in a government cloud can scale up. So as of right now, if you're on a government cloud, you're unable to enable the Fabric trial. So what I'm suggesting people to do is either spin up a personal Office 365 trial environment that will be more fully fledged with all the bits and pieces that you can do other things with. Or if you just want the Power BI experience, there's a link in here to create your own Azure AD subscription for free. Once you create your own subscription, you would then go in and activate the Fabric trial. And I have a link in here as well. And that will get you started with being able to now begin some of the labs that are available. So these labs are things you can walk through at your own pace, start exploring these tools. And what tools that are we looking at here? So we're looking here right now at what Fabric is. So as of today, when you go to Power BI, you're only really going to be able to see report type of elements and artifacts. But as we can see down here in the bottom, and I know the navigation probably will change at some point. I think it's kind of an odd spot, but we're going to see once Fabric's enabled all these other nifty tool sets. And you're also going to see that I haven't changed my interface. I'm now still working within the Power BI kind of frame, but I'm able to jump over to create a pipeline, a data factory. And here I can create loading things into a lakehouse. And these are types of things that you typically or in the past would have had to do in Azure, had to have a subscription and be able to spin up a resource and configure some networking. That's not required with any of this. This is all pre-configured, ready to go out of the box. I can now start doing things that only a data warehouse developer might have done in the past. So again, I can create a data warehouse, and in the data warehousing experience here, I can go in and start doing SQL, directly in the interface where Power BI lives right next to it. So in this situation here, we're looking at let me make sure everything gets loaded here, but a warehouse I've already created. And I have to look here for my schema, and I've got tables in here. And I can also go in and look at the data model that it's associated with. So I'm not sure why I'm not seeing any data there. Let me make sure I'm in the right spot. Here we go. Sorry, I'm in the wrong warehouse. I've been creating a lot of artifacts lately, just kind of playing around with it. But it's the endless possibilities. So we have tables in here. I'm making queries, and I can actually go in here and build a data model. All of this I'm doing in the browser. So you'll notice here I'm not using the Power BI desktop. That is the other big revelation for all of this, is that now I can do end-to-end data deployment, reporting, modeling, and visualization all within the browser. I'm no longer restricted to the desktop client, which frees up a lot of potential use cases, because if you don't have local admin access to your computer, installing the desktop is typically a problem. And then over time, we release a new version. You can't get the newest version if you can't reinstall it locally. So that is another big win for this technology. In the future, once it gets available in a government cloud, everyone who's currently a premium capacity customer will be grandfathered into using Fabric. So Fabric will be replacing our premium capacities in the long term. But in the short term, if you have invested in our premium product, you'll be able to start using the capacity, at least in the introductory phases, and the admins can turn that on for you. And that's the way it'll be purchased, at least for the government customers, until we get to the point where we transition to the new SKUs. So that is the 100,000 foot overview. I haven't really done a lot of demonstrations and talked about that. This is the second time I've actually talked about this product to customers. So hopefully this gains some interest and piques your interest. It's not available for production and for for the near future, I would say probably toward the end of the year, beginning of next year, you'll hear about a general availability announcement. But this Microsoft's putting all of its money into this, or at least for the Power BI team and the Synapse team. All of our time and effort and R&D is going into this. This will only increase in use over time. So anything you can do now to skill up on this would be beneficial, in my opinion, for people that might have in the past neglected some of these technologies in our cloud-based solutions. I am guilty of that as well. I've only really been working with Power BI for the last 5 years. I've dabbled with some of these other technologies like Synapse and data lakes and pipelines, but I haven't really spent a lot of time learning and investing in those other products because I don't typically represent them. But this gives me an opportunity to jump into these technologies in a way that I think is very easy, very friendly. And the labs that we've given are really good. They really explain the product and give you an overview of how some of these things work and introduce you to these technologies, because there's a lot of them. You know, when I go into the Fabric-enabled workspace here, and just be mindful that when you go in and create the trial, you'll see if you have a Fabric trial, you'll be putting your workspaces into a trial mode here, a Fabric trial. So that's important to be mindful of, is that you'll need to have that enabled after you activate the trial that I talked about earlier. But we can see all these things that now I have access to: notebooks, lake houses, pipelines, data science models, warehouses, and then your reports that we had previously. So just a lot of new things that are available to the citizen developer, not necessarily being hidden from you as someone who doesn't have access to Azure or Azure subscription. So I think this will be the future of data analytics, at least at the organizational reporting level. I'm sure those other tools will still be used as standalone products, but this gives a democratization to that data platform that I think is really hidden from the user base for a very long time.
Yeah, and what I love about it, and just in the little bit of looking at it that I did, Cyrus, is it has a super strong security model. So anybody that's in IT right now shouldn't be worried like, oh my God, what are they turning? Taking all of our core data and our PII data and everything and just giving everybody access? No, it's not that. But it's just a lot more powerful for the right people who have been trained and have the right credentials and everything else.
Absolutely. But again, it's democratizing these technologies that in the past, I don't think people ever really got the chance to explore these, because, if you don't have that title, data warehouse developer, in your job title, then we would never give you an Azure subscription. And I think that was a disservice for for the people that like myself, that I think other people can learn these things. It's not something that you have to necessarily have a depth of long-term training. These technologies now are very commonplace, and I think giving it to the masses in this manner is something that is beneficial. And yes, we have Excel. Excel is somewhere in the mix in there, but
the world's most popular database, Excel. And one of the other things, David, that Cyrus, that I like about this is all of the stuff that, if you haven't been hearing the word AI every fifth thing, then you must be living on a different planet than I have been. But the basis of the capacity for ChatGPT and all of these generative technologies and large language models is to have your information in the cloud and off of file shares, and that's when these models can become so powerful, can really drive efficiencies as we we bring in AI to come alongside people and work with them. And what's really interesting, I've been doing a lot of research on kind of the latest work trends, and it's that the amount of people who are completely overwhelmed with the amount of information coming at them, the amount of tasks they have to do in a day. It's like 86% of employees today across 31,000 people we interviewed across 31 countries feel overwhelmed and like they cannot keep up. And so when they were asked if you could have assistive technologies through AI, would you want that? 80% said yes. And so people are not, there are people that are concerned, like, hey, is this going to take my job away? But that's not what we're seeing. And these assistive technologies that are available today for government, they really don't work until you have your data available to them. And that's by putting it into the cloud. So it's all, it's all
one of
together.
my counterparts mentioned, like, well, what programming language do I learn in the future? And he said English, because the AI is going to be able to help you write things and do things more efficiently. And it's the same concept as, back in the day when I was, I had less gray hair. I was doing, server maintenance and patching things and changing out hard drives and looking at storage and upgrading CPUs and getting new specs for, servers. And everyone said back then, well, what's my job going to be if they take all that away and go virtual, and I think we all saw how that worked. People still had careers. I think they had more meaningful jobs that came along as time progressed, and I don't think but there's something to be afraid of. I think it's something we can embrace and then see how we can further drive, efficiency and our careers into ways that I think are beneficial for everyone involved.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing a lot of work through this community, and also this is a passion area of mine, is around employee enablement, employee engagement, really delivering the best employee experience across recruiting, onboarding, retaining employees. I'm sorry, and keeping people happy at work, keeping people fulfilled, and then if people leave, really keeping them part of the fold and really understanding the mission and what's going on at the agency. So we're going to do a lot of work around that as Microsoft goes into our next fiscal year, which starts in July. So I really look forward to working with all of y'all to help your agencies just become the absolute best place to work and the most up to date, and just really make it a stimulating environment that has great training and great resources. And so speaking of training, why don't we talk a little bit? Cyrus, are we good on Fabric and future?
Yeah, I hope that was a little taste. I didn't mean it to be an overarching demo or anything complete. Just kind of showing you what just came off the assembly line. But it's up to folks to now determine if this is something you want to explore. Let us know. We can help you set up that trial. It's not in government quite yet, so you would have to spin up your own environment that you would manage on your own. But that's the way you can do it. So.
Yeah, thanks, Rocky.
Happy to help out.
Yeah, totally agree. Cyrus, really appreciate you coming and showing. I mean, it takes a while to get ready for these things, and so seeing it now, and just I know we have some leaders of organizations that are here and starting to take a look at it, getting your people looking at it.
Yeah,
good.
The sooner you get involved with it or check it out, the better. It's because it's not just a new feature. It's not just this is a 2.0 of what we had before. This is light years ahead of anything else we've released. So I just want to emphasize that there's a lot of work that's been done on this, and so far what I see is amazing. And I wish our product was like this 5 years ago, and I was hoping it would someday be like this. And they finally released it, and you're like, wow, they actually hit it on the head. They really knocked this one out of the park. So
I love that. Yeah, I'm really I mean, you and I we've been here a while, and I'm super proud of the work that we're doing and the things that are coming with AI. We're working with some of the agencies that are on this line right now, and I think we'll be working with all of you around how do we have AI help your people not be quite so overwhelmed, do their work more efficiently, and just get more done and have more meaningful experiences. So lots of fun to be had as we move forward. So Cyrus, thanks again. Really appreciate you joining us. And let's turn it over to Alex. And we're going to talk about some of that training and how we can bring it to your organization with something that you already own. Over to you, Alex.
Thanks, Michael. So I'm gonna just share my screen, and we will just as a reminder of what we discussed a couple months ago on our session dedicated to learning pathways. So it's a Microsoft solution that's specifically built to bring knowledge around Office 365 to end users. And what we specifically wanted to emphasize with Michael last time, that the employee engagement experience, bringing this into Teams. And just as a reminder, as you can see, I'm in my Teams experience with my demo tenant. And I have that, let's learn, this is how I name my app. I put it in Teams, but it's nothing but SharePoint site. And that SharePoint site is built from Microsoft templatized solution with several web parts that allows end users to view information that comes from Microsoft Learning Catalog. And that catalog located, all the content located on support.microsoft.com. And the catalog gets updated by Microsoft periodically once a quarter, usually once a quarter. Microsoft pushes latest and greatest into your deployed solution, which is good. So for IT folks, you don't have to worry about refreshing Microsoft content. But also what we all like about this solution, ability to bring additional content. It could be additional Microsoft content, but it could be also content that comes from your internal resources. Maybe you have your internal training. And today we want to kind of highlight one of the use cases that both Michael and I got questions from our customers. Right now, Learning Pathway Catalog does not have Windows 11. So it's still a relatively new operating system, and probably there are a lot of people on this call today that still probably on Windows 10. I hope no one on Windows 7 because you guys in trouble. But even if you're on Windows 10, probably you have some strategic initiative at some point to roll out on Windows 11, and you would want to bring Windows 11 learning materials closer to your end users. And if you have Learning Pathway installed or planning to install, that's the vehicle that you can use to publish that information. So by default, as I said, Windows 11 is not part of Learning Pathway Catalog, but I did include it, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So I'm going to first show you kind of end product, and then we'll talk about how to make it happen. So as you can see, if I click on Microsoft 365 training menu item, so I have a list of scenarios and products. And all those products, they come from that default catalog that this solution, when you deploy this solution, you receive that catalog of close to 700 different applications and products. So what we have here, so I added this Windows 11 product into my product collection. And I can, when I navigate to this particular Windows 11 asset, so I can see different articles that come in also from Microsoft curated content source about Windows 11. And the format is probably similar to what you used to have for some other products that you have Learning Pathway. And you can navigate and get quick videos, quick tips about specifically Windows 11. So this part is missing. I fully expect that at some point Microsoft will refresh catalog and we'll include Windows 11 into the default catalog. But in the meanwhile, just to address this particular gap, we can bring that content with very little customization into your specific instance of learning pathways. And I did something else and just besides bringing this in a list of products and catalogs, I created a shortcut to the same content through the Microsoft 365, this menu option. I have a separate page and I have pretty much same content here, but also I added additional links to some additional Microsoft resources that could be of interest to your end users. So how did I do it? And many of you probably already dip your toes into the sea of experience updating learning pathways. But the administrators, they have access to this learning pathway administration screen. And if you dive deep, so this is how on the back end that catalog get maintained. I keep repeating that terminology, catalog of assets. So when we went to products and we saw all those cards in the products page, that's exactly what we've seen. All those, each card represent the item on this particular list. And some of those items like Yammer, which does not exist in GCC, it's hidden, but it's still there. It's part of a catalog and it could be hidden. And you can control user experience if you want to hide certain things. Like, for example, a lot of organizations don't want to promote Microsoft Access. They're going to hide Access. They can hide Sway product because it's not very popular and support people don't want to receive questions about Sway because there is maybe one person in the organization who uses it. So the way how you can hide the product or unhide the product, if you select and you need to scroll up and you can see the different assets that go, for example, inside the asset access product. And if I want to hide it from a view from my users, I just click here and it's automatically updated product page and access will disappear from the product page. You have option to also hide just specific assets under a specific product, or it's actually called subcategory in terms of learning pathways. So those how you can kind of manage your existing products and resources. So now if we talk about how I need to add content, and in my case, I have Windows 11. So I'll just kind of go through this exercise with you to add in Windows 11 just to show how easy those steps are. And hopefully, if you decided to undertake that exercise in your environment, it's going to be pretty much several clicks and you will be able to get there. So where we want to start, we want to go to the products. And again, this is everything that we have under products, all the subgroups and assets under those subgroups of products. So what we can do, we can navigate all the way to the bottom, and I'm just going to repeat. And this exercise I'm doing for Windows 11, but as Michael pointed out, it doesn't have to be Windows 11. It could be some additional custom content that you would want to bring into the into learning pathways. It could be as maybe training materials about some other non-even Microsoft products. Like, for example, I have the assets for SAP SuccessFactors. So that could be also a product within the list of your products and some assets that you can populate. So in our case, I'm going to just click plus sign here. And because we want to have another Windows 11, we're going to say that it's a Windows 11 subcategory. And we're going to stay with default language. And here you have option to change the image. So I already download Windows 11 images, and you can go on any public Microsoft site, get an image, and upload it from this particular interface. You can, if it's downloaded to on your local machine, you can select this file from your library and upload it. In my case, I already have that asset on my site, and I'm just gonna select that image. And this is pretty much it as far as creating a product or subcategory. In this scenario, we can use this interchangeably. And we're gonna click Save. So as soon as product created, so we can start working on adding different assets to this particular product. And there is several options that we need to specify for the product. So we can start with Windows 11 again for the creating a playlist, and we can have quick description that you can probably steal with from Windows 11 site on Microsoft resources. The technology we want to keep blank, and we want to make sure that we select the checkbox actually selected under products, because that's where we want our users to navigate. And the same thing for the playlist. We also want to have an image and the same image. So after we completed those details for the playlist, now we get into the kind of meat of this exercise, bringing additional assets. So what you can do, you can click New Asset, and again, you will start with your first asset, and we can call it Meet Windows 11. And the option that you would like to use in this scenario is going to be enter URL, because you want your page to go to the asset that I'm going to show, that URL that Microsoft controls and creates and governs. But in case if you create in your custom content and you don't have a page created, or you don't have a content, you can actually do something else. And let's do this scenario one more time. You can create asset page by yourself. So it could be any page in SharePoint. So you can pre-made this page beforehand and then use enter URL, or you can do it right on the spot. So in our case, we know URLs that we want to use. And the URLs that we want to use, it's again coming from support.microsoft.com. And there is specific navigation for all the different tips and tricks, information about Windows 11. So this is exactly URL that I will be using for my asset. So if I click here, I get an asset, and I click Save Asset. And in theory, this is as minimum as you can do for this particular scenario, because this navigation on the Microsoft URL that we just grabbed, it has its own set of assets or lessons that your user can go through and navigate and get this content and do it on their own pace to get information about Windows 11, what's of interest. There are some, if you have gamers, not at work, but still you want to introduce that this is very powerful operating system for gaming, but also creativity tools. So it gives it quick overview for your users where they can spend 5-10 minutes on each of those topics to get knowledge about different aspects on Windows 11. But if we're going to go back to our product, so now we'll have two Windows 11 products, so the one that I created before and the one that I just created a second ago. And if I click here, navigate here, then I get all my Windows 11 content. So without spending too much time, I think if someone would time me to do it first time, it's probably 5, maybe 7 minutes. And you can get that Windows 11 content into your learning pathways. Similar to that, you can get content from some other resources. And as I mentioned, it could be non-Microsoft resources. So I have just as a test case, I have this success factor playlist that I created with just one asset. And it's nothing but just a PDF file that could be hosted. Again, I'm still in learning pathways. I still in that particular experience, but now I have my custom content that does not relate to any Microsoft information. And a couple other things that I think we highlight in the first our session with Michael, but just as a reminder, this is SharePoint site. Yes, it does have those custom web parts that will display content in the iframe format, but remember that you have opportunity to add additional navigational items because it's SharePoint site. We have instructor-led videos that also could be featured on this particular SharePoint site. So, and it's all becomes one learning and training solution for end users. And on top of everything, I kind of switched to SharePoint to actually do the navigation to the learning pathway administration, but everything else is available to your end users through the Teams experience. Any questions or comments or suggestions?
I've got a question for you, Alex. So I know a lot of our customers have training that they have already developed, and some customers have it in a SharePoint site, like just like on a intranet page. How would they go about, or like I see you've got LinkedIn Learning up there. How would they go about? You pointed to a Microsoft hosted site. What if it's one of their sites? Is that the same process?
It's a similar process, right? Because and this is why me, person who spent a lot of time with SharePoint in my previous lives, because it's a SharePoint solution and you can really build very seamless navigation between different sources in your SharePoint environment. So if you have any training or any documentation, one of my customers, they actually took this learning portal a little bit further. They have some of the policy around requiring and asking for training. They built the process, again, it's through SharePoint site. They extended this process to host conference request system. If someone goes to the conference, then they can request from the approvals, they kick request for conference from that particular site. And if I scroll down, you can introduce your training calendar, your events calendar that you're doing within your organization, being again around Microsoft products, but you can extend it even outside of Microsoft product. So if we're talking about employee engagement and your employee knows that if they can't come to this particular app, Let's Learn, and they're going to get to the point where they get M365 content, they might get some content about maybe how to join a champions community. So this is completely outside of maybe specific information related to your SharePoint site, but you can go in outside of your SharePoint and learn more about the community for M365 users. If people understand that this is a central place to come, then they will come and they will consume content regardless where it's located. It could be incorporated with content from your SharePoint site that previously has been developed, or it could be external navigation to external content as well. But the convenience of one click jumping from whatever you do in Teams back to learning pathways to your Learn application, that becomes like a single launching place and home of different sources of learning and training. I know that with the employee experience platform Viva that we all love and would love to have full capacity in GCC, Viva Learning will be coming to GCC, and Viva Learning will have some additional features where you can have recommendation for training. You can track, managers will be able to track specific training, but your learning pathway content will not get lost because Viva Learning will incorporate and will have integration with learning pathway as well. So the content that you create in SharePoint platform, which is learning pathway, it's SharePoint platform, will not go away even when you move to Viva Learning. You will just be able to incorporate that content inside the Viva Learning. But while we're waiting for Viva Learning, we can use learning pathways.
Yeah, nice. Really nice. And now I do want to point out, and we talked about this before, but I just want to be super clear. Learning Pathways is not an LMS. It is not a learning management system. It does not have the ability to assign training and then be able to track who's taken the training and have they completed it and all kinds of reports and dashboards. So, it's not an LMS, and it doesn't have the ability to bring in SCORM compliant packages or any of the other kinds of things. But if you're having what I find a lot, and that's what Tim was kind of saying, is they have a university-wide learning management system, but for this kind of training, like technical training, I find oftentimes the learning and development department says, hey, IT, you're in charge of the IT related training, like this kind of technical training. And so this is a platform that's easier to administer, and it's really more giving employees access to really easy to consume, what I like to call snackable training. These aren't hour-long trainings. These are 3 minutes, 4 minutes on how to do a particular task. And the fact that you surface it up right inside of Teams just makes it, just dead easy for them to get right to it, right where they're working. So those are a couple of reasons that I really like it. Let's see. Tim put another comment here. Yeah, help desk lives in Teams and just makes sense to provide their training there. Yeah, totally agree with you. Now, the other thing that we're finding a lot of interest in is actually putting either a Power Virtual Agent bot or a chat bot. You can put that in front of like knowledge base articles, whether that's if you have ServiceNow and you're using the ServiceNow knowledge base, or you just have a whole bunch of reference articles, policy documents, whatever the case might be. You can use a chat bot, and the chat bots now literally take minutes to set up, and it uses that chat GPT capability to be able to ask questions of this knowledge set. And it's not the knowledge set like you think of, it's out on the internet. This is your knowledge that's inside of your SharePoint environment, or inside of a blob storage in Azure, wherever you want to keep this, or inside of your potentially ServiceNow instance. But putting a chatbot there, putting this learning pathways there really gives employees access to content that they need. And what we know from all the research we do with employers and employees is that one of the big reasons that people leave an organization is because they don't feel like they have the access to training and career development. So this is a really easy way to at least give access to training on how to do their jobs more effectively, and then you could actually put additional training out there. Because I know, like, some of my agency customers, they want to get a full-on LMS, but it's expensive, and they can't get the legislature to pay the money for hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy an LMS. And so this is it's a good bridge the gap. Let's see, is it? Oh, Tim, I didn't even see your statement there. Is it possible to set up a chatbot in Teams? Yes, it is. So you can either use what's called PVA, Power Virtual Agents, which you can live right inside of Teams, and that IT sets it up. But then all you do is basically configure the initial setup, and then the business users go in and create the prompts. But what you can also do now is you can use cognitive services and what are called Azure OpenAI services to front end the gathering of that information using that ChatGPT style large language model. And so you don't have to go in and do all the coding of what all the question and answer pairs are. That now can just be handled by the ChatGPT services. Now that's your organization's data. That data is never used to train somebody else's model. It's never used, it's never shared, it's never put out on the public. We don't use it to train our models, to make our models more effective. It's your data, your model, totally secure, just like your Azure data or your O365 data. So yeah, we see a lot of interest in using chatbots to streamline the employee experience. Yeah, right. Exactly. It really it has gotten so easy. We have a one of our people that works for the bots literally can in 4 minutes have a bot set up, pointed at a SharePoint library of a bunch of policy documents, and you can be using a Chat GPT interface against 600-page PDFs in a matter of minutes. It's pretty impressive, and it can do all the summaries and give me a 10 bulleted 10 item bulleted list summarizing the policies in this document. And it'll do that, and then it'll give you references to what page those references came from. So lots that can be done now, and it's just getting easier. And we actually made a big announcement about how our government customers can get access to securely to these open AI services. And so I'll post a link to that blog article in the chat here. This literally came out yesterday, this blog article. So this stuff is it really is a little bit wild how quickly all of this is happening. So great question, Tim. Other questions y'all have, and that's the kind of the total of our prepared content for today. So I'd love to just open it up to any questions y'all have about either the learning pathways. Cyrus isn't with us, but I can take some questions around Power BI. If you have questions about AI and chatbots, we can answer all those things for you. Anybody else, feel free to raise your hand or just come off mute and just ask your questions. By a show of hands, if you don't mind, how many of y'all are using learning pathways today? I know that some agencies already have it deployed. Who all has it? And I don't know if we have the people that would know on this call, but I'd be interested if you know you're using it to raise your hand. All right, I don't see anybody raising their hand, and I know that some of y'all have it that I recognize names that are on the call. So it may just be that you don't know that you're using learning pathways. And so, like, I know Health and Human Services has come on this call before and showcased the way that they implemented it. So I know that y'all are using it for sure. And then they've extended it and put some kind of Q&A features and some other things just using SharePoint pages. So a nice, elegant installation.
Just FYI, to install that particular solution, it's the effort maybe hour and a half, and you have fully functional solution in your environment. I just did a deployment session today morning, and within an hour and 20 minutes, we had to work in learning pathway solution with Teams app running in the organization.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and let's see, I saw somebody in the chat. Yeah, David, it's the Let's Learn icon in Teams. If you it's the first icon on the left. Y'all call it Let's Learn. And oh yeah, there it is. Someone said, yeah, Pacian, hey Pacian, how you doing? So yeah, oh yeah, and you even put a yep. So you can see Pacian pasted an image of their Let's Learn. And there's some other things that are really cool about learning pathways we didn't talk about, Alex. You can do things like have a welcome to agency name, and here's your first day's training, and here's your first week's training, and here's things you might need to know if you're working in this particular department. So you can create groupings of trainings. They're called learning pathways. And so it's really easy to create one called, I'll just make up, welcome to the Texas Department of Goodness, TDOG. And you can have just a set of welcome trainings, and so you just make that group, and then you add the trainings you want to it, and then you can make it so that when someone joins the organization, the first thing that will launch when they launch their PC is Teams, and they could be a member of a team where it says, "Hey, click on this link," and it takes you to that learning track of welcome to the agency. So there's some really clever ways that don't take any additional cost or anything, but just makes a better onboarding experience or a better user training experience. Oh yeah, cool. Wow, y'all have all kinds of stuff. Look at that. Hybrid work and modern workplace, working remotely, security, collaboration, accessibility. So yeah, y'all have done that exact thing where you have these scenarios for, if you're working at this agency and you're going to be working remotely, here's some different training that's available to you that you can use. And we're available. Not everything works. Um, we're available. Alex and I are available. Well, I'm volunteering Alex because he's the one that actually knows how to set this up and go in. But we'll help you. We'll walk you through it. Like you said, we'll spend an hour, hour and a half with you on the phone, and we'll just tell you where to click. So you need to be a Teams administrator. You can't just an end user can't do this. But yes, Pacey and mock-up T-Dog, exactly. So, but we're happy to, white glove help you get this set up. It's we want y'all to have access to the training. It doesn't cost you anything, and doesn't cost you anything for us to help you either. So, are there other questions? So we're happy to stay on, but we can also give people some time back. You got a lot of reading to do. Yeah, that's great. It's always fun to learn new things. Actually, last night I'm really digging in on employee engagement, and I was doing a lot of reading last night. And at 8 o'clock, I told my wife I can't stay home. I'm going to get distracted. I'm going to go work at a coffee shop, and there's one that's open 24 hours a day. And I got home at 3 in the morning. I was reading about employee engagement till 3 in the morning. And as I said, I really am passionate about helping y'all engage your employees more. All right. Well, if there aren't any more questions, thank you all so much. Oh, Judy, hey, do you have a question?
So I have a question that's unrelated, but since I have a
Sure.
good audience on here and we're in a small agency, often I try to reach out to some counterparts in other agencies, and I have their email address, but it will not allow me to Teams message them directly. Even if I try to do a what is it, a call to instead of the mail to, link, I try to trick it that way or something, and it tells me that we're not allowed. Our organizations are not set up to talk to each other. So is that something that our agency needs to fix, or is that a bigger community repair?
No, it is an agency by agency decision. It's a
Okay.
thing called federation,
Okay.
and I'm almost told you everything I know. Alex, you probably know a little bit more about federation, and it's a setting in the Teams administration that
Okay.
says either trust nobody, like you can't talk to anybody outside your organization, or only trust the ones that we've listed, like you can put the domain, or everybody. Alex, anything else?
Yeah, no, you describe it, but this setting's actually done not only on Teams level, but on a tenant level in Azure Active Directory. So you basically provide trusted domains where one trusted domain can talk to another trusted domain, and that's what we call federation. So you can usually by default, most of organizations, they allow like Microsoft by default. So that's why we can talk to each other. I talk to my customers through Teams chat, and it's federated, no problem, because by default, Microsoft allows it. Within the agency, it's a different story. This is someone has to go and set it up. But I have in one customer, they have very strict security rules, and they don't even federate it with Microsoft. So I have to use old emails to contact them.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes it's they think, oh well, that's not secure, or they just turned it off because it seemed like the thing to do. I will say that there are only a handful of agencies out of the 92 that are not federated. And so, Judy, if you wanted,
I
we
think
would
we're
be
one.
happy. You are, but there are a couple, and so I'd be happy to have a conversation with your IT director. Not, we're not going to gang up on them or anything, but just kind of say, is that set that way for a specific reason, or is it just sort of like, well, we just turned it off? Because it really makes life easier when you're federated instead of using email, which, I don't know about anybody else. I think I've expressed my disdain for email many times.
Well,
So,
I appreciate the information. I think that really and I'm very excited to announce we have a brand new IT director. So I'll try to not bombard her too much, but I'm definitely bringing her on the train. Hopefully she'll join the call next month.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great. Yeah, thank you, Judy. We'll, if you'll just have her sign up on that community sign up list, then I'll make sure and add her to the meeting request, or you can just forward it to her. But also, please go ahead and have her sign up, because when I go in, this meeting request has over 500 people on it, and it's a bear. Every time most of the times when I open it up, it crashes Outlook. It's just not designed to have 600 people in the to line. And so, so make sure she gets signed up.
Okay, will do. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Judy. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for spending another Thursday with us. And Alex, thank you so much for your expertise in coming on and allowing me to volunteer you to help the state of Texas get learning pathways set up. All right. Y'all have a great evening, a wonderful weekend. Oh, I'm going to be on vacation next month, and so I think we'll cancel the July meeting. The task conference is oftentimes in conflict with our August meeting. I'm planning right now to have an August meeting, but that may get canceled as well. Just know that you can reach out to me, for those of you who are federated, on Teams. If you're not, send me an email. Otherwise, hey, y'all have a wonderful month of July, the rest of your June, and let us know how we can help. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.